uncharted region of a planet called Earth.
Greetings, my friends. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here. And remember, my friends, future events such as these will affect you in the future.
Time and space.
Contact has been established. We now transmit you direct to
Tales from the... Well, we're live, Gary. Tales from the Silent Planet, which is the interview show I do. Mostly about science fiction and fantasy, but it could be other stuff. But you, Gary, you are a comic book artist, yes. Famously having created Packin's Land, which got you nominated for some of the most prestigious awards in all of comicdom, the Eisner Awards, Gary. Yes. And now you are working on Titan Mouse of Might, which is one of my favorite ongoing comic book series right now. Yeah. Well, welcome, Gary.
Thank you for having me on your show. A lot of crazy stuff going on. Trying to get back, back to normal, but I don't know if we're ever going to get back to normal.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like it sometimes. I got to be honest with you. As things just get crazier every day.
Yeah. So, I had a problem with my YouTube channel. I don't know if I got hacked or if my channel got just obliterated by YouTube. I did get a notice, like an email saying that I violated something. It was just one notice. I've never gotten any notice from YouTube before. I got one notice and it said you violated YouTube and my channel is gone. Like I can't, it doesn't exist anymore. And I'm like, but then you told me that morning that it was hacked or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I noticed the morning I woke up and I was like, why would Gary be talking about like crypto coin? That doesn't make any sense. And I clicked on it and I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good.
So what I was thinking is probably what happened is that we got hacked. The people hacking it started doing that crypto stuff and putting like Elon Musk and all kinds of weird videos. And then YouTube struck it.
Yeah.
That's what I think happened.
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, your YouTube channel that you had been putting years of effort into is no more, and you've had to start over with a new YouTube channel. So somebody could put that YouTube channel into the comments. I would appreciate it. Gary, what it seems like when everything is going wrong, it's easier for things to continue to go wrong there, as happened with the YouTube channel, where it's just like, man, what's next? What's next that's going to go wrong? But you're always so optimistic and hopeful that it always cheers me up when I talk to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't think by nature I'm an optimistic person, but I do believe in Jesus Christ, and all I get from what I read in the Bible and in devotions and things like that is hope, optimism, fear not, keep going, perseverance. And it has helped me. I think I would have been done a long time ago if I wouldn't have that faith, So that helps me to be optimistic. Every morning I wake up, I open up the Bible and I read, and something encourages me to keep going, and not take things so serious, Certain things need to be taken serious. Other things, not so much. So, yeah.
Well, Gary, right now you have a Kickstarter that is going on right now, and it looks like you've got some of the comics that might be available in that Kickstarter right there on your desk. Can you tell us about them?
Yes. I think I can pop up a screen somehow, some way. with technology as it is. Excuse me. So yeah, I have a Kickstarter campaign. Actually, the Kickstarter, I've never really done well on Kickstarter, but it's only because I haven't done a whole lot. Actually, I've done more than maybe I realized, but everything I've always done has been like, I'll do an Indiegogo campaign first, and then after the Indiegogo campaign ends, it's like, well, hey, let's go throw it up on Kickstarter. Maybe there's a little bit some interest over there that people don't even know. You know, there's Kickstarter people and there's Indiegogo people maybe. And this, I would have to say, this campaign has probably been has turned out to be one of my best. I might have a bad memory though. Let me see if I can.
Is that optimism, Gary?
Yes. Optimism Prime.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you share a screen? Let's see. Is it slides? Oh, it says screen. That's what you do. And then you click on that. Okay, good. Boom. There it is.
Here we go. Here we go, Sir Gerald.
I did it. So this is this originally was on Indiegogo, and I ran it there, and then I don't know what happened. My brain froze or something. I was going to put it in demand on Indiegogo, so it'd be like a store open all the time. I missed that opportunity, and it just shut it down. So I thought, okay, well, let's go over to Kickstarter and let's try it here. It's kind of sat for a while. We only have 7 days left, and it was a 30-day campaign on Kickstarter. But people have really been getting the word out a lot. I appreciate it so much, and we've gotten it up there. I was only expecting to get the 500 for the goal. I actually need about 200 more to pay for the colorist who did issue number 2. And then I'll at least won't be in the hole anymore. So all this money that we're raising on Kickstarter right now, anything up to $1,000 is all going into reimbursing me for paying the colorist. And he did a fantastic job. I'm hoping that he got picked up by Marvel while he was doing this book for me. Do I have some samples here? Okay, so here's some Packens Land samples. So in this campaign, I'm probably messing this whole thing up. In this campaign, I'm offering 3 color books. The 25th anniversary of Packens Land. This year is the 25th anniversary. And so I'm going to offer a new cover, wraparound cover, and color interior of issue number 1. Now we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll continue coloring Packens Land and just get them all in color. I don't know. But just as a commemorative thing for 25 years of work and memories, we put out the 25th anniversary. And so that's cool. Oh, I do have some news about this. I just don't know if I should say it right now.
All right, let's say it towards the end. So right now you have the campaign up. It's if people missed out on the color issue 1, and now you're also putting out issue 2. Because I don't think that was with the Indiegogo campaign previously that you did color, right?
I do have a 25th anniversary Packens Land on Indiegogo right now, and I think it's in demand, so you could just get that issue, but it's here as well on Kickstarter. And so, anyways, there's some samples of the coloring for Packens Land, just a few there, and then and I did that color, and then here's the Titan. The guy who did it, and I can't even pronounce his name. He's like from another country, and I think his name is, I don't even want to try to say his name. Did I put it in the campaign, his name?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it that closely.
Neither have I.
Well, you're notorious for having typos, Gary.
That should be my YouTube channel.
Yeah,
typos
with Gary Shipman.
Yeah.
All right, Gary. So, what is Titan about? For those that aren't familiar with it or haven't read it.
All right. So, what Titan is about okay. So, basically, here's the concept. Originally, I did a comic book series back 25 years ago called Packens Land. And in that storyline, it's about a boy who comes from the human world and he goes into another world where the animals are intelligent, sort of like a Chronicles of Narnia thing. And he helps them with it, many adventures and stuff, but he's also trying to get home. He's lost. So the spin, I guess you want to spin it, is Titan is from the world of Packens Land, but he gets pulled into the world of man. So it's like the reverse of Packens Land, but they're in the same universe. So Titan is an intelligent animal from the world of Packens Land who gets brought into the world of man. And while he's there, he's dealing with a lot of issues. Some of it he thinks is his fault. Some of it he's being manipulated by powers that be. And he's wanting to do good. He's got a hero's heart and he's wanting to do good, but he feels like everything that he touches, he seems to destroy, or he gets destroyed
Right.
in the process.
Well, what's interesting, Gary, is I did a review, and I still owe you a review of the second volume, but of the first volume, I did a review, and I talked about how well you had kind of talked about some of these themes of almost like post-traumatic stress and depression and things, that it's all done with a little comic book mouse superhero and tackled, I think, really well. In fact, I have a page from that comic that my wife got me as a gift that, and it's the page that absolutely made me tear up when I read it.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you have that page too. I think it went to the right place.
Yeah, me too. It's packed up right now, but it does hang over my desk when I have all my stuff in a house and not packed up. Now, Gary, so these themes of depression, of post-traumatic stress that I'm seeing in there, of feeling like you're inadequate, but working hard and trying to overcome those inadequacies and those hardships. How conscious are you of those themes when you're crafting the story?
Very. I think I'm very conscious of it. Sometimes the creative process, at least for me, the creative process is almost like it's almost like it's not me. And you probably heard people say that before. It's like something else is doing it. Like sometimes ideas come and I'm like, oh, that's too good for me. I could never come up with that. But it usually is like when I'm just quiet, like usually I'm going to sleep at night. I might be pondering, can't sleep, and I'll just be sitting there quietly. And then ideas just start flowing. And then I like Titan, the first 3 issues of Titan came like in one night. And it just all clicked together. And I was like, oh, I've got to remember this tomorrow. And I'm not real great with the writing because I have some problems that way. And so I usually do everything is visual. Like storytelling to me is very visual. But your words are key, to expressing and conveying thought and emotion and all those things. So I've had to battle with my my inferior side, which is words, and I want to lean heavily on graphics, and I want to tell. I wouldn't mind just doing the whole book wordless, but I just feel like, people are going to, well, what's going on? You're not that good. We don't know what you're trying to say here. So words are necessary. And so I'm not sure if I answered the question. Did I?
I think so. Yeah. The question was about how aware you are of these themes as you're writing it. And
yes.
I mean, there has to be some awareness. If you just lucked into that, you just backed into that kind of I don't know, depth of themes and the story and how it all
Well,
kind of
it
comes
is
together.
easy. It is easy to fall into like a rut, and I've done it. I mean, you can, if you've read the books, you can see where there are some times where it's like, oh, this is really going somewhere, and then there's other times it's just like, oh, he's just having fun now. You know what I mean? We're just doing comic books now. But what happens though is I'll be doing comic books like something stereotypical, like, oh, that's just very like a comic book trope or something, and you just did it. And so I fall prey to that just like anybody does. It is a comic book, but I really have a desire to do something, and I know that it probably, people looking at this think it's a mouse with a suit on. It's like, how serious can this possibly be? But I really am wanting to do something that has depth. And I'm not just trying to phone it in and just get a book out there so that I did a book. See, oh, I actually want to do something that speaks to people. I want it to speak to me, and I want it to speak to people who read it. That's really what I want to do. And I'm not just trying to make comic books because I like comic books, even though I do. But maybe I don't. I don't know. I like the comic books idea.
You like the concept of comic books, but maybe not how they actually play out in reality.
Right. I like that's basically what it is. It's like I feel like there's a need for the kind of comic books that I like, and so I'm going to make them.
Right.
And so it fills that need for me. It's like, well, at least I did it. If nobody else wants to read it, that's fine, I guess. But it would be great if people would give it a try. I think that people would be surprised. It's an unassuming book, but I think there's something to it.
Right. I think for me, what's interesting is how I didn't expect that depth in it. Not that I didn't. I knew that you were a great artist, Gary, and that your storytelling was top notch when it comes to knowing how to craft a comic, how to tell the story of a comic, how to convey action, how to give it a little bit of extra life and not make the images look static, but actually kind of come alive. I was already aware of that because of your work from Packins Land, but I was not excited. I didn't really know what, I thought Titan, he's dressed in a costume. He's a little, comic book mouse, superhero mouse. And I was a little, maybe I was a little jaded about superhero stuff. And I thought, I trust Gary. It'll be great art. And I'd seen some of the art because you had drawn a lot of it on stream. But when it all came together in that package that the first volume did, it absolutely blew me away. And we have Mr. John Delarose says it was one of its top 5 of Comicsgate books, he says, which I think it's for me, it's up there with the ones that I've enjoyed the most, especially superhero ones. Your book, and then Josh Howard's T-Bird and Throttle, I thought are the 2 of the best superhero stories I've ever read.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things that you mentioned that always kind of speaks to me is you have trouble with writing, with scripts, what we kind of mentioned with the typo thing. And so when you craft a story, when I write something, I go and I write a script in a screenplay format. That's what I was taught. That's the format I feel comfortable with. And then I go and I plan the comic based on that format. I lay it out and I change things as needed. But you start with images and then you figure it all out as it's drawn. And then you go in and you start to figure out the language that's associated with the images. Can you tell us about the way that your process works when you're actually going about deciding how the comics are going to flow?
Yeah, here's a page. This is a double page splash. I'll put it here. I think I need to turn some lights on. It's getting kind of dark. See how big that is. Is that showing up too big? So this is a double page splash, and this idea came to me. Like I got the image of this, and it was like, okay, this is the next Titan. This is where we're going. I can't get the whole thing on screen, but you see most of it. And basically, I have some ideas that I'm working with. They come visually because I don't know why they come visually. They just do. But what I do is I draw this out. And as I'm drawing this whole theme and this whole story is growing in my mind. And then I'll even, like, when I first started drawing this, I had I don't know what you can see when you see this, if you can see what's going on, but there's something more to this than just Titan there climbing over into this hole. There's more to the image, but I just don't know. That's where I get tripped up with. I don't know what people can see or what they can't see. Like, I'll show my wife or I'll show my kids and I'll say, what do you think of this? What do you see? And I'll say, describe it to me.
Yeah,
What do you see?
I think I see what you're talking about, Gary.
Yeah,
I see some interesting things about this this image.
yeah. So down at the bottom here, this is a little more telling, I think.
Yeah.
And up here, going up here, and then this thing
Right.
there. Anyways, so I don't want to give it away,
Right.
like spell it out for everybody, but kind of when you're doing images, you kind of are spelling it out for people. But anyways, the idea came to me, and I don't know how much I can actually tell of the story because I don't want to give it away. I think the experience of actually reading it and being in the book yourself is part of the experience. You know, it's not just about, like, I could give little tidbits like, here's what we're going to do, and this is going to be a surreal, or this is going to be a dream sequence, or this is going to be, you know, I mean, I don't want to do that and give it away. But in some ways, it's almost like it's such an unknown title that I think there's only, like, you know, there's not very many people that know about Titan.
Right.
But it's done fine. You know, we've done okay, but it has not hit the mainstream, and not even in like the indie comic world. So it doesn't matter so much if I just tell everybody what's going on, because there's only these group of people here watching it, unless we can get the word out more and more. But you were asking about the process,
Yes, sir.
of seeing things visually.
Right.
So mostly what it is I'll get an image, and the images are like, right now I'm thinking of the images, but if I start telling you about it, then I'm going to start telling you about the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to think of like an example.
So what do you sketch out ideas and then work those together in a sketchbook? How, like, what's the practical way that when you sit down to start an issue of a comic book or a new project, what's the first thing you do?
Oh, wow. See, I'm so unorthodox. I just do it the way that I do it. There isn't like a set way. Now, I do have a sketchbook, and I will sit down and I will draw ideas. I'm not real fond of sketchbooks. I don't like that you have to open up a book and then it kind of confines me. It's like, I just need a piece of paper. Just give me a piece of paper and I'll start. And it could be even junky paper. It doesn't matter. And then I get an idea down. Or sometimes I have the idea so strong, I just go right to the page. Like this, I just went and did it. I didn't sketch it out or anything. I mean, I may have sketched out like Titan there and stuff. I think I did rework him a couple times, but I don't have like a preliminary drawing for this. It was just in my head, and then I went to the final page. I started drawing it, and I said it's going to be a double page splash, so it has to lay out that way. So when you open up a book, it's got to open up like that. So there's either going to be a page before this, or it starts here. So we'll see what happens. But if I'm not sure, and there are a lot of areas in the story where I won't be sure about what it's going to be, then I'll get a piece of paper out and I'll just get a pen. I don't want to use a pencil too much because I want what I'm putting down, I want to put it down confidently. I don't want to say, well, I'm going to erase that. And, you know, I mean, I kind of, got rid of pencils at one point in drawing, and I just went with ink, full on ink. And for probably a good, I don't even know how many years I was doing that. And I was creating like paintings and doing like this really bizarre kind of goth. Like I did a sketchbook called the Somewhat Goth and Sometimes Ugly Sketchbook. And I think that was like last year or the year before. But anyways, in that, there's a lot of the drawings that I did, and they were just like what hits the page is what it is. So if I make a mistake, then it's a mistake, and that's the way it's going to be. And even in this drawing here, I can zoom in and I can show you some mistakes like right here, but I don't really care. And I don't know if you can see it, and this is a pin line right there, real thin underneath the branch. I don't know if it's showing up or not. Maybe I go closer.
It's just a spider web, Gary.
Yeah, it's a little thin line. Spider web. Well, I drew the tree just with a pin. I just went for it. I was like, this is where it's going to be. I don't care if I do it wrong, and I'm just leaving it. That's the that's the way I work. And usually when I start using a pencil and I start getting real, I don't know what the word is. I get too bogged down or too pent up. That's what it is. I get real pent up, and the work seems to be very stiff and rigid. And I like to be more flowy and more, and you might see it in Titan, like from issue 1 through 6. That's how many we've done so far. You might see like there's times when it's really loose and fluid and like even like sloppy, borderline sloppy. And then there's times when it gets real tight. It's almost like, oh, this is actually comic drawing now.
So it sounds like a lot of this is kind of intuitive. Like you go into it, you have the broad ideas of what you want to accomplish, and then you start to work. How often in that process, you're putting the ink down on the page, you're figuring out what the layout of the page is going to be. How often do you change that initial layout in the final product? Like not just like a little change here or there, like shifting,
like a major change.
Yeah.
I've had some problems. I've run into problems to where, because I work like final, like when I'm working on something, this is the final piece, and then I'll go away from the board or the table and maybe sleep, wake up the next day, and then I'll look at what I've done and I'm like, ooh, there needed to be a panel in between there. And there's no way to work around this. I really do need to put a panel or two in between these two panels. And I've done that on my old channel. I was like cutting up the pages, like the panels, putting new panels in and stuff. So there's some pages that I've had to do that with. It isn't the most fun thing. And probably if I would work more, like do a thumbnail first, I could avoid those things. But it is what it is. And
well, I have found that, at least for me, as I draw more and more, I kind of work, since I'm doing a lot of digital stuff now, when I sit down to do my process, especially if I'm working on something for somebody else and I'm working from their script, I throw down some panels on a page of how many panels they're wanting, and then I just go with an initial idea, and then I build on that. So I don't change much of the panel layout unless there's a problem, like it's unclear what's happening, or I make a mistake or something.
Yeah.
So every once in a while you have these structural problems that you have to fix. But for the most part, do you find that the easiest way for you to work is just the way you've done it?
Yeah, it's the easiest way for me to work is just to go for it. Just like pull the trigger and go. And I do have some pages that, like, usually I'll flip it over. Like if I have I don't know if I have any here, but like I'll have started a page and I'll do a panel, and then I'm like, oh, I can't use that. I'll flip the page over and start the page then again. So there'll be on some of the original art, you can see on the other side, there was something that I started, but it didn't work out. So you get a little bonus in the original. But yeah, mostly. And the more you do it, at least for me, the more I do this, it seems to be like the better I get, or I can kind of, I can avoid the pitfalls of storytelling. Sometimes it's just like think it through, get it tacked down in your mind at least. Might have to do a rough thumbnail sometimes, but kind of sometimes too, what'll happen is that I'll have an idea like the one that's up here now with this cat biting his arm. I might get this image, the top one here, in my head, and then I know initially what's going to happen, like say several panels away, like maybe even pages away. It's going to start here and it's going to end in another place. So now it's filling that in. What happens? What's the sequence? How do I get us there? How do I get the reader there? And so yeah, that comes with practice, I think.
All right. So, Gary, I have actually prepared a slideshow looking at some of your art. I'm going to bring that up here now. The Art of Gary Shipman, I've titled this slideshow. So you have no idea what we're going to look at, but these are the first two images that I've chosen. We have a very technical looking drawing of a classic car, and then this blue woman on the bottom. What can you tell us about these two images?
Okay, so the Chevy, that was done a long time ago. I think that was even done before Packens Land, right, Rhoda? A person at Rhoda's work, she worked at Social Security. A friend of hers came and said, I guess found out that I drew, and she wanted to do something for her husband or somebody like that. And she said, would your husband be able to draw this car, this Chevy? And so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. That drawing, I literally was praying. I mean, I really was. And I was like, Rhoda, you got to pray because I can't do it. It's not coming together. And then we prayed and I was working on it and it came together, and it's a really strong piece. So that's a memory and a testimony right there. So, and the one below is, I did a poison ivy. What's that? Oh, that's another. Let me go back. So I did that so many years ago, that Chevy. But anyways, we went and visited California. And on the license plate, I don't know if it says it on the license plate there or not, but the original drawing or painting said El Dapes. And that was the person who owned the car. So then, like, I don't know, 20, 30 years later, we went and visited where we lived in California. We're driving down the road and we see a license plate that says El Dapes. Was it the car? Rhoda says it was the car. I can't remember if it was that actual car driving. And we pulled up beside him and we like waved him like, hey, roll your window down. And we're like, do you have a painting of that car? And they're like, oh yeah, a long time ago, or whatever. And I said, I drew that. I'm the one who did it. And he's like, no way, or whatever. It was just funny coincidence, I guess. But anyway, so that was that story. So the girl at the bottom in blue, that was originally with poison ivy. So it was like green. Okay. And what I did is I wanted to do like the seasons and just take that idea and do like say winter and fall and spring and summer. So I have there's different color variations of that same picture, but it's based off of poison ivy.
Right. And what was the medium for that one?
I used for the Chevy or for poison ivy? Okay, so the Chevy was like the black line is India ink, and then I used I believe it was acrylic. That was so long ago that it's hard to remember. And then the Poison Ivy one was done with, that's all mostly India ink, like colored India ink. There may be a little bit of like gesso, which is acrylic, mixed in there to kind of lighten the colors and stuff like that.
Okay. We have slide number 2, and this is from Packen's Land, and these are bricks here in the background, these blocks. What can you tell us about this image?
Okay, so this was a remastering, I guess you'd say, of a page in Packen's Land that didn't look nearly this good, the original. Like the bricks were not great. It was like he was in some white room or something. Also the anatomy and things like that and the wasn't really great because it was done so long ago. So this one I did just maybe it was 3 years ago. And when I did the Packen's Land Omnibus, there were certain pages that I felt like I just can't let this go. I have to go back in. It's like I phoned in the original.
All right, so should we start calling you George Lucas? You got to go and change your comics and tinker with
and
them.
it's a mistake. It's a mistake, but you know, looking at it now, maybe it isn't. I really like this page.
Okay. And what is this character's name?
Here, this is Sadek. He has been imprisoned in the eastern land of Russia.
There you go.
He's in the dungeon and he's getting kind of depressed.
And here we have another page from Packen's Land with.
Okay, so like this page, this was a splash page, and this, I believe this might have been in like issue number 1. I think it was the first issue of Packen's Land, and that idea, that was the image that came into my head, and it's like, draw that, and so I did it, and it's like this powerful moment where Paul is about to enter into this cave that's in the brush, and this dark flyer is about to swoop in and get him, but Gus is the little creature who's in the clutches of the dark flyer. He risks his life to save Paul, and then Paul has to make a decision. If you've read the story, spoiler alert, or you haven't, Paul has to make a decision. Does he go home where it's safe, or does he do what Gus did for him? And does he try to save Gus? And so it's there's a moment here that's happening.
All right, so this was one of the first images that came to you when you were starting Packen's Land.
Yeah.
And did you kind of visualize it this way, or was it more like the idea of the scene? I mean, it was a long time ago, 25 years.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Things don't really ever turn out the way that I think them, but all of the concepts, all the ideas are there that I was trying to convey. I've gotten better over the years, I believe, with drawing, but I still feel that this is a very strong piece. And I don't feel like I would want to go in and do anything to change it, to say, let's make it better. I like it the way it is. There's something about it. Maybe it's sentimental, because it's so long ago, and I remember doing it, and so I like it the way it is.
Right. All right. Let's see what the next slide is. Here's more recent work. This is the first issue of Titan, as he is preparing to enter the Ryan Research Center.
Yeah. So this is almost like page 1, but it might be like maybe page. Yeah, this is page 1. I think there is a one page before this, which is sort of just like a justice has a name and you're looking at it kind of thing, like an intro page. But this is the actual first page of story, I believe. And I like the way it's got so many panels in it. Like there's a long, panel there. Then we have a close up. Like I don't even know if people pick up on it on that first long panel. Titan is right there on the sign. Do you see him real little?
Yep.
And then we zoom in close. And then you see a full shot, first full shot. Well, there's the cover and all that of Titan being heroic, reaching into his little pouch to grab. What is he grabbing? We don't know. Oh, it's a telescope. So I guess it also has like a thermal reader on it as well, because he can sense whether there's heat in the building. Oh yeah, that next page is good.
Yeah.
Of course, I think it's good.
Yeah. Well, geez, Gary.
I like this. Man, I wish comics were more like this. This is great.
Yeah. Like we go from this sort of heroic pose here to an image where Titan is fighting Abomination, I believe is the character's name, and you kind of see a little bit more of the visceral action. And then you showed off the pictures earlier there. I can actually show them real quick. Those images of him fighting the cat, and obviously a cat would be a formidable foe for a little mouse. What the book to me, Titan, it shifts from being, when you open it up and you see a little cartoon mouse superhero. I mean, he's sort of quasi-realistic, your art style there for the animals. They're not like super realistic. They're kind of a combination of cartoony features and realism.
Yeah.
But then as you start to go into the book and he gets deeper into the Ryan Research Center, the book does take on a little bit more of a, darker in terms of the appearance of it, at least in black and white, but also more serious, more visceral. How much of that was intended when you were actually crafting the book, or is that just how it turned out?
I wanted, originally Titan was going to be a comedy, but I've never done like a humor book. I do have another idea that I've been kicking around for years called Little Creepers, and it's just funny, it's just like silly stuff. And I don't even know that I've named the characters, but I have like several pages done that I've wanted to do. And it's almost like there's like, even from page to page, there might be a theme that keeps going, but it's almost like there isn't one. It's sort of just like, this is just having fun. But anyway, so Titan was originally going to be funny. And even the first, the intro page where it says justice has a name and you're looking at it, it was meant to be humorous, but I kept it. It's like, well, now let's take it. Let's try to take this serious. Let's really look at this as if this is actually real. Like this is plausible. And so I'm putting into it everything that I can. And I am limited, obviously. But I'm trying to put into it this level of seriousness, if you will, even though it looks sort of like not. A book that did that to me years ago was called ElfQuest.
Mm-hmm.
And I poo-pooed that book for the longest time. And a friend of mine, he told me, like it was back in the 80s when the books were actually coming out and they were in black and white. And they were large format issues in black and white, like newsprint. And we were talking about like, what's your favorite book, like right now? And I was like, oh, Teen Titans or New Teen Titans or, X-Men or something, Daredevil or something like that. And then I said, well, what's yours? And he's all ElfQuest. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Give me a break. And I just look at the artwork and I would think this is ridiculous. But then he said, read it. And I'm like, fine, I'll read it. And this same friend has done this to me multiple times, and I have multiple times been amazed. And then I read ElfQuest, at least the first run. I haven't read all the other stuff that they've done. I think they've kind of gone all over the place. But the original ElfQuest first, I don't know if it's 18, 20 issues. Amazing. Some of the best comic book stuff out there. I mean, it's up there with like Dark Knight, Frank Miller. Not that it's the same kind of a story, but it's just the quality is so good and it pulls you right in, even though they're these doe-eyed kind of, they almost seem like Precious Moments characters or something, which seemed ridiculous to me at the time. But then I started reading, I was like, wow, this is really good comic books. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. It's that same kind of a thing. It's like, it looks like it's just a silly little mouse dressed up in some funny costume, but I'm trying to add this layer of seriousness to it, if that's possible.
So you like that kind of juxtaposition between the more comic book aspects of, classical comic book aspects, sort of superheroic images and things, with the more serious tone, but you don't go so far as to kind of undermine the heroic nature of the character.
Yeah, I guess so. And also I don't know that I necessarily am trying to model what I'm doing like after Wendy Pini or ElfQuest or something. I'm not trying to do that, but I can see it. When I look at it, I'm like, hey, I'm doing what they did in a way. There's probably nothing like this in ElfQuest, right. But that same kind of and Bone is that way too. Bone is very like, this is just a silly little kid's book, but then when you start reading it, it's like, wow, this has depth, and these little cutesy characters, wow, very unassuming, but once you start reading it, this is incredible. Same thing, like even with but this is like these are funny comical ones, but like Calvin and Hobbes, you think like, oh, this is just some funny little comic strip. It's amazing the craftsmanship that is in Calvin and Hobbes, and the level of intelligence that he pours into those drawings, and even setting up these, this humor. It's astounding. It's some of the best stuff in comic books or comic strips or whatever.
No, I totally agree with that statement. All right, here we go. This is a painting of the USS Enterprise. Can you tell us your history with Star Trek, Gary?
Okay. So, do you want the long story or the short one?
You pick, Gary.
I'll give you the long one. Okay, so I worked for Packin's Land was picked up by Caliber Press back in 25 years ago, and we kind of ended our run with them because they weren't able to pay us for what we did. And there was a lot of things that happened. Other creators were kind of set up higher, that were more known and things like that. And they got like first billing, and money went to them, and they took the money that we actually made and paid other people. And the company fell apart. And so Gary Reed was the publisher at the time. And we had a falling out because of it. And it's not that I wished him ill or anything like that. It's just, it wasn't right. And so we're done. So years go by, and then Gary Reed shows up in Chicago. I'm at a convention, and he comes up, and I'm like, oh, Gary Reed, what is he going to do? And he comes up and he's like, man, I like what you're doing and stuff like that. I go, thank you. Pay me. I didn't say that, but it's sort of like, okay, whatever. And then he basically like put out an olive branch to me, and he said, I really would like you to come to a show that I'm doing in Detroit or Michigan or whatever it was. And I've been doing a comic book convention there every year so often. And I can't remember what it was called, and like year after year, he would come to me, like maybe for 2 years at least. He would come to another show. He'd come up to my table, put out the olive branch and say, I'll set you up in a hotel. I'll give you a table. I'd just really like you to come. And then I said, you know what? Okay, fine. I'll come. And I was maybe holding a little bit of a grudge, but it's his way of like saying, hey, I'm going to try to pay you back for, that problem. And I went, had a great time at the show. And at the show, this person came up to the table, and I forget his name, but I think he's notable. He has like Yeoman or something. I'm not sure what his name is. Anyways, he does publishing and things like that. I think he even did some stuff with like Steve Ditko or whatever. Anyways, he came up to, I didn't know who he was. He came up to my table and he said, do you like Star Trek? And I said, yeah, I love Star Trek. And he said, do you like the original Star Trek? I go, yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. that's the one I love. And he said, would you be interested in doing a project? I go, yeah, I would love to. And I just thought, oh, it's just some guy and people do this all the time and nothing comes of it. He said, okay, well, let me have your information. We did that. And then I came home and like right away, I get like a call from him. They're setting up this idea there's a writer who's done this parody book, and they wanted me to do like, I don't know, this unheard of amount of paintings in like a month. Like, okay, I'll do it. I did like, I think 88 paintings in like 30 days.
And for the people that don't know, these are paintings that are likenesses of Star Trek characters, most of them. So they're not exactly like easy to do.
Yeah, and I don't think, like, because we struggled. It was, they were trying to get me to do something in a certain way, and it was supposed to be more of a parody. And I never quite got it until like maybe the last painting I was doing. The last painting that I didn't even get put into the book, but it was probably one of the better of them. And it was like a Hura, and it was 3 of her, and it was called like the triple threat. And one of them, she's playing a harp. One of them, she has like a blaster, and one of them, I don't know, she's doing something else, but it was like in the theme of like Charlie's Angels or something. It had that kind of a, how they were silhouetted that way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was like one of the best ones. I was like, oh, I love this one. It got cut because the guy kept wanting it a certain way and I couldn't quite get it. And this was a really hard project to do. I'm glad that I was able to do it. Because now, I did a Star Trek project, right? But it's a parody book. And I think they wanted something more like make it zany, like Mad Magazine kind of stuff.
Well, I think from what I've seen of it, I don't have it. I'd love to own one, but it's called Fun with Kirk and Spock, and it's sort of a parody of those books that.
It's a parody of like those kids books.
Yeah, Fun with Dick and Jane,
right? Yeah,
and where kids are supposed to be learning how to read, and it's done with Kirk and Spock. But I actually think it probably benefited the project if it was more straightforward, because those books are. I mean, I read ones that were my parents from when they were children, and they were really classically illustrated paintings, sort of almost like a Norman Rockwell style, maybe not that great, but they were in that vein. And if that's what you did, then I think that fits a little bit better.
Yeah. So they wanted more of a Mad Magazine approach. Mm-hmm. So, but it was fun. I got to do Star Trek characters.
Right. All right, let's see what the next slide is, Gary. This is from Kingdoms. What can you tell us about this image here?
Kingdoms.
I really like this picture here.
Yeah, this was fun. I did 2 volumes for them. I think it's 5. There's 5 volumes altogether, and I did volume 4 and 5. I think maybe I did 3 and 4. I can't remember, but the ones that this is Ezekiel, and I think I was really starting to get into it. And it's the part where I guess the elders come to Ezekiel and they are wanting him to give them a message from God, and he gets up and does like a mock message or whatever. But it was fun.
Now, I personally see a lot of Frank Miller influence on this page. Would you concur with that, Gary?
Yeah, I would say Frank Miller and probably Mike Mignola.
Yeah, yep, definitely. Were those things that you went into the comic thinking of when you the style?
Yes.
And those are artists that have been influential on your art as a whole, or just on this particular project?
I would say that they've had quite an influence on me. And then I got to lean heavily that way in this project.
Right.
So that's fun.
Now, how much we've talked about influences before, I think probably on the last time we had you on for an interview, I think we talked about stylistic influences possibly. I don't remember. Yeah. But how would you say those influences show through in your work like Titan? Like, let's pull up your page here. Like, now knowing that you like those things, I have sort of analyzed your work, knowing that you like Frank Miller, that you like some of these artists, and I have sort of picked out what I think is some of that influence. But how do you think it plays out in your everyday work? Not something where you're specifically going for it, but
are you gonna show me a picture?
Well, something like this.
Oh, I'm watching YouTube, so there's a delay. Okay.
Okay.
So this Titan page?
Well, yeah, I mean, just as a whole, it doesn't have to be the specific, like, oh, well, this is what, like, obviously down here in the bottom panel, you have a lot of silhouette. That's something that both Frank Miller and Mignola use, a lot of these darks, whites on black. We could pick out those specifically, but how much is it is a conscious, it's something day to day like this, where you didn't go into this thinking like, oh, well, I'll purposely do it this way because I like Frank Miller. This is just something that's gone into your art style over the years as you've seen those comics and you've kind of integrated them into your art style. How, like, is it subconscious at this point? It's just those stylistic things exist because you saw that, you integrated it into your art style?
I think that there's a conscious effort to make it look a certain way. Like in the very bottom panel, I don't know if you can zoom in or not. But
I don't.
I was gonna say that was a Star Wars influence, but I guess it's not. Anyways, but yeah, I'm definitely pulling on things that struck me either in comic books or movies or something, and everything that I do, it's all like a compilation of things. So it's like, I don't know that anything that I do is actually original. I'm just pulling from all of these areas and trying to convey an emotion or a feeling. And I've probably seen it. Somebody did it and wow, they did it good. I'm going to try and implement that in. So I don't know that anything that I do is original.
Yeah.
But, I kind of say I give myself a break with that because nothing is original really, because God created mice, and then, you know, so I'm drawing mice. You know, it's like everything that we do creatively, we're doing it off of something that we've seen, you know. So I don't know that anything that's even created by man is original, you know. Does that make sense?
Well, then Frank Miller and Mignola are both influenced by the people that came before them, people like Will Eisner. And there is a lot of Will Eisner in your work, but you didn't particularly study Will Eisner like you did in your younger years, like you would have Frank Miller or Mignola.
Yeah.
That's something that's come to you through your influence from him.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm like an Eisner fan. I have seen his work, and I forgot that I even owned it. He did a book called, I think it's called Sequential Art or Storytelling or something like that. And I have that book, and probably back when we were doing Pack and Slam like 25 years ago, that's when I read it, you know. But it wasn't like, now I'm going to do everything like Will Eisner or something. I don't know that I'm doing really anything that's him, but I don't know a lot of his work. Right. I do know that he did spirit, and that he would like work in like lettering and make it look like a building and stuff like that. And that was cool. So I might do some stuff like that too. I think he did it better than me personally, but
he is Will Eisner. So now let's keep going here. So I think that's interesting to hear. I think I've heard something new about how your styles influenced actually those questions. So I'm glad I got to ask that. All right, here we go. This is also from Kingdoms. What can you tell us about this image? It's a little bit, there's still some of that play with darkness and light, but then there's also this glow up here. Is that, what is that all about?
So that is Ezekiel, where he sees the vision of the cherub, I guess, the cherubim or something. And there were like, I'm not exactly sure if there was 4 of them, and their wings touched and their hands touched. And it was trying to convey that image from the Bible, that it was this vision that he saw. Very complicated. I mean, there's a lot going on in that, but we have it kind of grayed out and oversaturated with light to kind of give us a little bit of a, what do you want to call it?
Otherworldly feel to it, especially as it contrasts with the more mundane images, in terms of everyday life. Nothing kind of fantastical or spiritual going on here, and then trying to convey some sense of otherworldliness. How was that achieved? Was that was done digitally? Did you do that yourself, or did somebody else do that?
What I did was I drew one of the cherubim, and then I altered the face. I mean, you can't really see it very well on the screen, but I kind of mirrored him. You can see that he's mirrored there.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I even I think I did like a negative of the original art. So it was like composited in like Photoshop, and then I did some tinkering around with grays and stuff like that to kind of make it seem otherworldly.
Yeah. And what years were these coming out?
Oh boy.
Remember what time frame that was? 2000s, early 2000s?
Is Kingdoms up there? Can you see it? Is it over here? Can't reach it. I don't know. What was it? Rhoda says early 2000s. I'd believe her.
All right. Well, so let's actually do something interesting here, which is take a look at these 2 images from Kingdoms, early 2000s, and then let's go back and look at some of this Packens Land image. You can see some of that. I can see some of that obviously the play between dark and light is a theme that I have identified in my readings of Packen's Land and in your art in general. You use that contrast between dark blacks and bright whites, and then even there's one of these flyer characters that even gets that kind of a theme impacted into his physical appearance. But I see those same kind of artistic themes. But obviously this is a different style. What do you think, looking now at these two styles and how they are sort of about 10 years apart probably in time? What do you think, looking at them now? What jumps out to you?
Well, when I was doing Packen's Land, I had given up comic books. I used to want to be a comic book artist from probably, I don't know, not early teens, mid-teens. I don't know. I wanted to be a comic book artist, and then I got disillusioned by the whole affair. I was going to San Diego Comic-Con and stuff like that, showing my work to editors and to artists, to all these people that, I thought were amazing. And I finally just gave up. I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go get a regular job. So I went and got a regular job at an educational book company. And I worked there for probably a good 7 years. And everything was very cutesy and very whatever. And then one day I went in to the president of the company. I asked him if there would be a possibility for me to purchase some of the pieces of artwork that I did for them over the years. And I did like over 300 different products for them. And I did a ton of stuff, paintings, all kinds of stuff. And he just flat out said no.
Quite the Jack Kirby moment there for you, Gary.
Yeah. And the walls, even to this day, if it's still there, I don't even know. But up until I knew, the walls were lined with my artwork, all framed and everything down the halls of Evermore. And he said, no, what you did here, we've paid you for, and you can't. It's ours. And I said, well, can I buy it? They're like, no. And then right then, the idea was like, I'm going to do something that's mine, and hopefully nobody's going to take it from me. And so that's when I came up with Packen's Land. I started working on that. And then shortly thereafter, I left Evermore. They, I don't know, reconsolidated or something, and I was no longer there. But that's where Packen's Land came from, and I worked on that. And when I was doing it, I was a new Christian, and only thing that I really knew was comic books before that. And I was like, comic books there's nothing good in comic books. The whole industry is just debauchery. And then the same friend who showed me ElfQuest years before said, oh, you should read Bone. And I'm like, who cares? And he's like, no, it's really good. And then I'll read it. I read it. I was like, wow, this is really good. I said, but so what? Nobody buys it, right? He's like, no, it's a really good selling book. I go, you got to be kidding me. I go, I'm going to do a comic book. So I did. I started doing Packen's Land. So that was, and what I was doing was I was trying to do a book that would be like a family friendly book, something that could go into like Christian bookstores, because back then there were Christian bookstores. And that's a whole nightmare in itself, dealing with Christian distributors and the whole deal, and trying to sell them on this book, Packen's Land, which is a book of redemption.
Right.
They couldn't get past the imagery, and I thought I dialed it down so much. Like I really made it.
I mean, how times have changed, because now there wouldn't be any question, but at the time, the style and the things that they were doing, the market they were catering to, was just so anti that you couldn't even get Packen's Land in there is kind of silly.
Yeah, we did get into some stores, but but it was really hard. And I even talked with like one of the distributor person, and they at Spring Arbor, and I said, "Well, have you read the Bible?"
Yeah,
It's like there's some really
it's pretty R-rated there.
yeah. And so he's all, yeah, he said this is the truth is that if the Bible was to come out today, it wouldn't be allowed to be put in a Christian bookstore.
Right. Well, so,
But then now all the Christian bookstores are gone, I guess. I don't know.
and then so you did Packens Land, and it was like a very, it was all you. You weren't told to do it. You did it on your own. You went and you promoted it. You tried to get it out, distribute it, all of that stuff. And then you had a huge bust in the 90s in terms of comic books, and some of those distributors went away. It became harder and harder to distribute comics. And then you did this in the early 2000s, and this was for another company. This was work for hire, and yet it looks tremendous. Like you put in the same kind of effort that you did on Packens Land, that you have on Titan, into this work for hire. It wasn't something that you phoned in. You cared about this. And that's evident on the page. Why didn't you just phone it in, Gary?
A friend of mine told me, now I don't know if he told me it back then, but he's told me it. And if he ever said anything that was right, this was right. He said, no matter what you do, whether you're doing something for a really big company or if you're doing something for just some person that whatever, or you're not going to even get paid, do the best job that you can do. And it's just like, that's what I need to do. I need to do the best that I can. And it isn't, the phoning in thing can't exist in me anymore. And I have phoned it in, I have done things like that, and just gotten some money or whatever like that. But it's like, it doesn't last. Once you've done something and you haven't put your heart into it, that goes away, and it goes away quickly, and it's not remembered, and you're not proud of it, and it's just whatever. And so if I'm going to do this is what I love to do, then I want to do it with my might. I want to do it with all my strength.
Right.
And I want to do a good job, and I don't care who it is. Now, sometimes time restraints happen. And with this book, we were under heavy time restraints, and I was able to still produce some pretty decent pieces of art.
And that's when the Mignola sort of stripping things down and making them more of these iconic images. I mean that in the classical sense of iconic. The very striking, simple but not simplistic. Was that on purpose in order to have a more speedy process?
Oh, it wasn't speedy. It's not as easy as you might think. It seems like it's more of a simplified thing, but it really is complicated. And I learned a lot doing this, because I used to think that like Mike Mignola was like an oversimplification of stuff, like he's just stripping it all down. He's really good.
Until you try to draw like that, and then it doesn't. It's very hard. Yeah. All right. So I like these images, and I eventually need to get Kingdoms because I need to see more of this artwork. It looks.
I should talk to the person. It was published through Zondervan.
Okay.
But the person who owns the rights to it, he was actually my publisher.
Okay.
Not Caliber or anything. It's a different publisher, and he's a friend. He's actually helped me get Titan published, and he did the artist edition of Titan. He did that whole thing. It's beautiful.
But it'd be cool to see this come out, maybe at a nice big format like Titan has. Not the artist edition, but
I should talk to him. I don't know if
might be rights issues tied up with it.
Well, he has the rights to it, but I don't know if. Like, I would be interested in doing the stuff that I did. I did this one, and then I did Daniel.
Okay. That would be cool to
but
see.
Daniel, the style of it, it's like the time restraints you can really see. Okay. We had to get get simple and we had to do it quick. And we had a talk after I did this. He was like, it's real great. It's really good, but we got to get this book done. And if we keep doing it this way, we're not going to get the book done. Zondervan's on our tail, and we have to do this. So you have to do, like he was saying, doing multiple pages a day, and try to just get it done. And so that's unfortunate, because it's nicer if you have something that's going to stand the test of time when people look at it and they're like, wow, that's really good. It isn't just good just because it's the first time I'm looking at it, but as the years go by, I look at it again and it's like, wow, this is really good.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what I want to shoot for. Whether or not I ever hit it, that's another story.
Let me just say that you do, Gary. You do hit it. All right, let's go to next slide. What are these? I saw these and I have what is this? Tell us about this.
This is Meow Meow Jones. Where did you find that?
That's my little secret.
Secret. Yeah, this is a book. It's a fully painted book. Mm-hmm. And if you do you have or if you've seen the cover of the Goth and Ugly sketchbook?
Yeah, I have it somewhere.
So that image, the cover of the Goth and Ugly sketchbook, got me this job.
Okay. And
the person who got me this job was Jim Kruger. He's a writer. He's worked for Marvel and DC. He works with Alex Ross and things like that. So he's always wanted, like we've talked over the years, and he's always wanted to do a project, him and I together, and we never have been able to. And even to this day, we're still trying. We're still trying. We got one going, which was called Earthbound Angel. And I have all the artwork is sitting in a drawer right here, and it's just dead. And I talked with him like maybe a week ago, and I said, hey, what's up with Earthbound Angel? And he's like, it's dead. It's never coming out.
No.
So it's not going to happen. But anyways, this was another project. He said, would you be willing to do this cat story called Meow Meow Jones and try to do it in the style of that cover of the Goth and Ugly sketchbook?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And so it's like 88 pages. It took me, I think, 3 years.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It took me 3 years to do that book. It took a long time, but because the reason why is because I had to do other work as well. It's like I have to, make a living. And
well, you're not making that Alex Ross rate there, Gary?
No, not at all. But anyways, it was fun, and I have all of the paintings, all the pages still right now. The tragedy of it all was the people who funded the project to get us to be able to do it at all. We had a contract signed that after so many years, if they haven't done anything with it, the creators, myself and Rick Bond was the writer. I just did the visuals, but we're co-creators together. That the rights would go to us and we could do whatever we wanted with it. Well, the time has lapsed since then. And then tragedy struck and Rick Bond passed away. And I was devastated. This was like, I think he may have passed away of COVID. I don't know, but it was like right at the beginning of the whole thing. And he just passed away. And I was shocked, and we were going to put this book out. Well, now the book I have a portfolio, a wooden portfolio filled with all of the artwork. It's just sitting there, and I don't know if it'll ever come out. I mean, wow. There may be a way, because I do own the images. There may be a way that I could put it out as images, like take all the words out. And just release a visual
That'd be interesting,
version of it. But I'm not sure if anybody would want it. I would enjoy it because, I put a lot of work into it.
judging from these two, I like your the style of painting that you do. I mean, you do a lot of different styles, but this one in particular is something that I like. And when I saw these images, I was like, man, what is this? Like, I need to know more
Yeah.
about this.
So it's
That's
basic. The story behind it is that it's about that black cat. His name is Meow Meow Jones, and he has 9 lives, and he has to learn. It's during World War One,
Okay.
and he's in Belgium, and he has to learn through different events that he has 9 lives, but what are they for? You know, and when he's young, he's careless with them. He like he wants some milk, and he falls into like a thing and drowns. And then he comes out and he's alive, and his mom says to him, like, don't be so wasteful with your lives. You know, they're not meant for that. And then all these things happen. The war starts breaking out, all these things. And then he learns over the course of the book that his lives are meant to give to others. It's a really good story. You know,
Yeah.
Rick Bond did a wonderful job, and it was great to work with him. And it's unfortunate that he passed away. Never got to see this in print.
Right. It's pretty sad. All right, Gary, what can you tell us about this image?
Okay, so this is well, this is an image that I did for Disney. What are they called? Like, people were doing like these artistic kind of things, takes on like Disney characters. This company was doing it, and they approached me and said, would you do your version in that style of Disney characters? And I said, sure. And so I did. This was, I think, the first one that I did was actually Little Mermaid. It never got made because it went back and forth between Disney and like they proof it, edit it or whatever. Like, no, this isn't on model and all that stuff. And it's like, do you not understand what I'm doing?
Yeah.
This is my version, not Disney's. But anyways, so this is Belle, and the wolves are coming. And so it's that point where the beast is about to rescue her from, I think it's called Is Anybody There? But this was a piece that was limited edition on canvas, and it comes with a certificate of authenticity and all that stuff. But I did this one. I did Spider-Man, Hulk, and Captain America. It was just before, right around the time Disney was getting the rights to those characters or something like that. I don't know.
Like 2009, 2010 in there, I think.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Like 2009, 2010, somewhere around in that area.
Yeah. Then they also had the Star Wars franchises as well. And so they asked me to do some of those. So I did, or the Lucasfilm stuff. So I did Indiana Jones, which got made into a real big. I have those still. Oh, I could show you. Where are they? Anyways, I did an Indiana Jones and Miriam, and it's called It Looks Like I'm Your Partner. And it's that scene where she's got the amulet that that Nazi guy reached for and burned his hand.
So like right in her bar with Marion Ravenwood's
in her bar, and then you see the shadows of them cast up on the wall. And that was the piece I did, and it was kind of cool that I got to do that. And then I also did Princess Leia, and it got approved by Lucasfilm and everything, but then the company said, we have too many Princess Leias.
Okay.
So we're not doing it. So I didn't, and then it was so difficult working with them. The back and forths of working with other people is maddening sometimes, like, because they want it done this way. Then the person that you're working with, they get removed, and then a new person comes in, and it's total different rules, and it's
I'm
all
actually trying to do like a movie that way.
yeah.
All right. So, what's this all about? What's this painting all about here?
Okay, so a lady at our church named Ruth passed away, and I got this image, and I did it, and it's like the path of life leading into, I don't know, into the unknown.
It's a sort of symbolic representation of that idea of going off into eternity.
Yeah,
These
but the path of life has like these sharp edges, and it's rough, but
Right.
then it smooths out and becomes light.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see that. It is interesting to get explanation from the artist on some of this artwork here. Now we just need to get Leonardo da Vinci, and he'll tell us all about the Mona Lisa. Michelangelo, and he'll take us on a trip to the Sistine Chapel. All right, what about these images?
All right, so that's Moby Dick, and enough said. And, then that's another Poison Ivy.
Right. Well, I think this Moby Dick painting is probably one of my favorite I've seen of your paintings. That's Gary Shipman to me. The weird goth and sometimes ugly kind of idea, and then these speckles of paint and just the motion of it. This, I think, encapsulates a lot of you in a painting. Your style.
Okay,
Like,
self-portrait. Sorry.
Self-portrait. And then, of course, we have a beautiful painting.
So these are some of those paintings, like I was telling you about, where I would just go in with pen. I wouldn't use a pencil. I wouldn't like, well, I'm going to have it going this way or whatever. Let's rearrange that. I just did it, just pen to page.
That's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive.
Well, you learn a lot when you do stuff like that. You just go for it.
Right. And then what is this one, Gary?
Okay, so I did a bunch of, like, there's one recently I think that I put up called Scary Mickey on my channel. It's the same thing as that little bunny, but there was a contest, I think, on DeviantArt years ago. Man, I can't remember. I don't even think I have a DeviantArt anymore, but
it's still up, Gary. It's still up. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, anyways, I think they had a t-shirt contest, and I was like, sure, I'll do it. So there it is.
There it is.
But that was from the same. I did a bunch of these, like, Scary Mickey, Scary Bunny, and they're all with their mouths open with these teeth. It just was funny to me.
Right, Gary. So that has been a journey through some of your artwork, and I think that was pretty fun. Let's talk a little bit more about your Kickstarter here. Why don't you take us through some of the tiers that you have? People aren't familiar with Kickstarter. It's just a platform where you can essentially get something published. Gary has a great track record of actually getting these things out, and is an honest man who wants to get these products into people's hands. So what do we have going on this Kickstarter?
Well, you want to run through the perks? Is that what we're doing?
I mean, you do you, Gary, but yeah, let's talk about some of these levels and just show people what they're all about.
All right. So basically the concept here was I wanted to maybe, because a lot of the comic book stuff that I do, basically all of the comic book stuff I do is in black and white, and I love black and white. I like color too, but doing comic books in color is a whole nother realm of money. I mean, you have to pay to get this stuff done, and it costs a lot. And I'm kind of grassroots kind of guy and independent, doing this on a shoestring. And so I try to do things the most economical way that I can to get the stories out that I want to do. And the best way to do that has been in black and white. However, I thought it would be nice, and maybe it would even open up the door to a larger audience of people if I was to colorize the work. And that's been a challenge because it's just a lot of work to color stuff. And then even like issue 2 of Titan, I asked another person to help me. They did a fantastic job, but now I'm back to me coloring everything again. So, and I'm not even sure, is this a direction that people want it to see? Is it doesn't matter. I've heard a lot of people say, we're okay with black and white. It's fine. You don't have to.
Well, I really enjoyed the black and white, and I love your black and white art. And I was kind of opposed to color. I was like, I'll just, let me see what it's all about. And I got issue 1, and it did not diminish the art in any way. It's different. It definitely is a different book in terms of, the color does change something, but it doesn't diminish it in any way. The story is still there. The images are still striking. You did a fantastic job with issue 1, which I have seen, and the coloring in that. And I'll be interested to see issue 2 when.
Issue 2 is like just pops, man, hard. My approach is more a subtle one with color. I like things to look more vintage, than to look so like image comics, bam, just coming at you. But issue 2 of Titan has that bam to it, which I like. I mean, I think the guy did a great job. It's just interesting, different people's takes on things. I just don't know if color is the way to go or not. I'm going to do it as much as I can. I mean, we have several issues of Packens Land that are ready. The first 2 issues of Titan are done. They're ready. Moving forward, it's going to be more complicated because I'm trying to work on Titan, the phase 3 of Titan, which is issues 7, 8, and 9.
Right. So if people don't know, the way that you kind of work is the initial campaign is a hardbound volume of like 3 issues, essentially worth of story.
Yeah.
And then that's put out in a fantastic hardcover edition. And then like you also do a deluxe edition with that I think is well worth the money. I've really enjoyed having those come out. And then you're going back and you're offering these in color if people want to get them.
Yes.
And I think they look great either way. And I like experiencing them in both ways and having that access to your art, because I learned so much in revisiting your art, looking at it. What did Gary do here? Why did he choose to do this? Trying to figure it out. And as I learn and grow in my own artistic abilities, I find that to be a valuable thing. And for people who are maybe looking at it to try to learn something, but just to experience the story, it's a fantastic story, and the art is amazing. I don't think I've ever seen a bad word about the art in Titan. In fact, whenever somebody actually sees it and looks at it, it's nothing but praise, I can honestly say. Now, Gary, in your process, you do all of this on Bristol board with pen and ink.
Yeah, except for like the coloring.
The color is done digitally, but
yeah.
The initial images are.
I use traditional, comic stuff, Strathmore Bristol, things like that. I use pens, technical pens. I use quills, brushes.
Toothbrush.
Yeah, toothbrush.
Gary is if you ever get the chance to make sure you guys subscribe to his channel, by the way. We've linked it in the I know we've linked it, but I'll link it again. Make sure you guys get subscribed to Gary's channel, because if you ever get to witness his live art, it's just amazing, because Gary uses whatever method strikes his fancy, it seems like, to get some of these brilliant images. Just absolutely fantastic. And sometimes you'll see things, you're like, wait, he'll put a piece of paper down on it, and he'll take a brush and he'll just tap it on his finger, and then it spreads this white over the page, where he's already put black. I'm like, Gary, like I don't think I would have the bravery to do this to an image. I just spent like an hour with this intricate brush and pen work, and then to have the boldness and the bravery to just go with the white over it, and then you take the piece of paper away, and it's perfect, like every time. And it's just absolutely fantastic to see it done. And then you go in and you work digitally to do the colors, and these aren't just these colors look great.
Thank you.
So what tiers do you have available on this particular campaign on Kickstarter that we're trying to get some people to go?
We have let's see. We have the $5 digital for Titan 1.
So this will be you pledge $5 and you get an issue of the comic digitally sent to you, and you're able to have that if you want a digital comic. Okay.
And then the same thing for issue number 2 of Titan and Packens line number 1. They each are in their own tier there. And I think the way Kickstarter works, maybe it makes it a little bit difficult. Like if you want to get all of them, maybe I have to have I think I have a perk where it has all three digitals. We'll see when we get there. But then there's the physical Titans, and that will be signed by me. And who knows? Maybe
it's going to be similar to the printing of the first Titan color issue was done in.
That is where I had an announcement
to
make. There's another company who is wanting to take on some of the publishing, like distribution and printing. And so we've signed a contract with them, and they're going to be dealing with, they're starting with Packens Land 25th anniversary issue. Okay. And we're going to do that as a test run, and we're going to see how things go. I believe that it's going to be distributed through Diamond, so it's going to go into comic book stores as well. But the printing that they're doing is going to be their printing, which I haven't seen, but he said it's like just standard Marvel printing. Okay.
So
I guess, and I don't even know what that is because I haven't seen a comic book in a long time.
It's not newsprint anymore. It tends to be pretty decent. Okay, so you have $10, and that gets the individual issues in a physical format and digital, and that's for you. You can choose to get either Titan 1, Titan 2, or Packens Land number 1 25th anniversary edition, or you can get all three. I think I saw you had a bundle deal on there as well.
Let's see if we have a fundle bundle.
Oh, we got three. Okay. So three digitals. You get a discount on that of $1. So you do save money if you want to get all three. And then same thing with the 3 books in a bundle.
Yeah, and so with the physical, you also get the digital. So if you want both, just get the physical, and you'll also get a digital version.
Right. And I like to have the digital as well, because when I go back to do a review or I want to really look at the art it's nice to be able to have that on my screen because I do some of my art. I do physical. I actually draw on Bristol board, and Gary's seen some of that. And but mostly when I'm doing comic book work for other people, drawing comics, which is most of what I've done, I do it digital. And then my own comic book, The Adventures of Stephen Starlight, which is nearing completion, might I add.
Nice.
Finally, after 2 years, is done in a hybrid model where I did initial drawings I did almost 2 years ago were done pencil and on paper, Bristol board, and then now I'm going back and inking some of that, trying not to change too much of what was there originally, even though my art has greatly evolved since then.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's pretty exciting. And then if people want to, there's also other perks on there to get multiple copies. That sometimes retailers will go in and buy those, or people might want those to sell on their own convention tables at conventions when they have books that they think they can make some money on. And then there is, of course, some of these larger perks where you get bonus items. Here you have a pledge of $150, and that's the digital, the physical, and then also Titan Volume 1 and 2 Deluxe Edition and the Packins Land Omnibus hardcover. That's the normal hardcover, I'm guessing, for Packins Land, and a Titan mouse metal print. So if you are just the world's biggest Gary Shipman fan, or you want to just go all in on Gary Shipman's art after we've spent over an hour detailing just how amazing it is and how Gary comes to these amazing images, then this is probably the perk for you. And then I think you have add-ons where if someone wants an original piece of art, then they can also do that.
Right. Yeah. Once you select the perk, if you want to add on, it's after that. So it doesn't show it on the screen here. But
once you back it, then you could select that if you wanted. So those are the options in terms of the current Kickstarter. That's a great place to start if people want to find some of your work and to support you. That's a great place to start with Titan and Packins Land. Obviously, your two biggest projects, creator-owned projects that you have put a lot of time, energy, and passion into. And those are currently available, and we've linked them in the comments, and also they'll be in the descriptions for anybody watching afterwards. I don't think I put them in the descriptions to begin with. I should have. It's an oversight on my part. So these are some of the new colors for issue 2. Is that right, Gary?
yes.
You can see that those definitely have a very sort of modern, punchy style, but it does look like Titan. Obviously, a lot of craft went into this. So.
Yeah, the guy did a fantastic job. So we'll see how things go with this publisher. If they do well, then we may have them do Titan as well, and then distribution would go into like regular comic book stores through Diamond.
Cool. Well, let's hope that works out.
We'll have to wait and see. The person that I dealt with, they were very, accommodating because I gave my theories on things. It seems like the creator is always the last one to get paid, and that's happened to me in the past. And they understood, and they also approached me too. So that was a plus as well. I wasn't like looking for a publisher or something. They wanted to see this work out in front of a larger audience. So that's where we are.
Right. So Gary, am I right in saying that in everything you do, you are trying to do it to the glory of God?
Yes.
And that includes your artwork and the themes and the subjects and the content of this work. And is that something that you is your goal with some of this, is to glorify God?
Yeah, definitely. That's why I think it's really hard. It's really hard to marry the two things together, like a comic book, something that's going to be, at least I think that I've done something visually to where people would look at it and say, hey, this looks, I want to look at this. I want to look into it. And then once they have, to then put a story that's going to have an impact, that's going to actually speak to people. It's can be quite a challenge. And so I leave it to you all to decide if we did it or not.
Well, Gary, I for one think you've accomplished it, and just being able to look back at 25 years of independent comics on your part, not necessarily every single year putting something out, but staying the course and being true to both your ideals and your purposes in making comics, I think is a noble thing, and definitely has succeeded in making some fantastic art. So if you guys
thank you.
are all interested, you need to go out and check Gary. Gary's a very humble guy, and he doesn't like to brag on himself, but he is definitely, in my opinion, one of the best comic book artists in the world. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that just because he's on the show here and we're friends.
Wow.
I say that I've said that since before Gary and I became friends. And I truly believe it. I have looked at a lot of comic book art, and Gary is absolutely fantastic, and you guys will not find that art lacking and the story lacking at all. What does a digital copy mean? That means you're going to get a PDF, Gary?
Yes.
To you, and then you will be able to keep that. You'll have access to that. You could take it out down to the artist formerly known as Kinko's and print it out and stitch it and make it into your own book if you wanted. That is yours as long as you're not selling it. That's what it means. So if you want to back that would be fantastic. That is a great place to start with, Gary, because this art is truly fantastic. And I love talking to Gary because I know I'm going to learn a lot. I think do you have anything you'd like to add, Gary, before we wrap it up for tonight?
Well, just thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all the people. Go check out my YouTube channel. We'll see if we can get the numbers up. I'm going to do a giveaway if we can get up to like 500 subscribers on the channel. I'm going to do a giveaway at that point, some art or something. We'll figure it out. But I think we're at like 200 right now, subs. Right. So we're getting there.
Let me get that back up. Obviously, we spoke about that in the beginning of the show. Gary lost his former channels, got hacked and just scammed, and then YouTube deleted it, and just a whole mess. So getting Gary back up to that, to having a lot of subscribers on his channel, it's a good way that he gets out information to people. He can keep track of what's going on with his current projects. And I think that is a great way to do it. And there's a great community that's developed over there over the past few years of people who really enjoy spending time watching you make fantastic art. So thank you, Gary, for joining us today. Hopefully people have learned things and have enjoyed this interview. And God bless you. Would you like to
Yeah, God bless you too.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. And adios.
Bye.